get started, gotta take a look here. Stream status is good. Now I just have to make sure to turn off the ad that'll pop up at the beginning, otherwise that'll be annoying, won't it? Be starting momentarily. As soon as the feed catches up with reality, I guess. Any minute now. I hope everyone's doing well. Okay.
How's it going?
There we go. Now we're good. Spectacular. Okay. All right. I think people should be technically able to be hearing things. All right. And we should be good. And how about that? There we go. Everything seems to be working. Looks like there's 36 people watching currently, which means that we do have a signal and things are rolling. It's a little dark here today in the studio, which is to say the dining room. I would say it's probably because it is kind of cloudy and crappy outside. So, and I'm wearing a black shirt, so maybe that helps to add to the gloominess, but we'll get through it. It'll be fine. Our moderator, Matt, is here, and so that's cool. Glad to see it. We've got about 45 people coming in. Got people coming from, let's see here, Netherlands, Lincolnshire, Denmark. Excellent. I do the show at like 9 a.m. my time because I figure it will probably catch the majority of a lot of the rest of the world at times when they'll hopefully be awake. I know you can't do everybody, but it works out probably the best, not just for the majority of Wargamers, but also for me because I'm almost never doing anything on Sunday morning at this time. So it kind of works out. We've got someone checking in from North Carolina, Texas, Mars. I'm dubious about the Mars thing. I think there's just a couple of those robots there, and that's about it. But you know, I'm not gonna say you're wrong necessarily. Sweden, got a couple from the UK, Wales, Poland. Hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's been painting and building. I've been doing some of that. Norway, Australia, a Spaniard in the UK, Vancouver, New Jersey, Germany. Nice. Just to start off so that people can kind of see things here a little bit. So our moderator, Matthew, he and a business partner of his, whose name is Anton, they make a game called Wreck Age. It's post-apocalyptic, skirmish game, and RPG. And I'm going to be talking about models from that line today that I painted recently. You can see pictures of them right there. Those are 4 guys that I took a picture of out in my driveway yesterday. And so I'll be kind of showing them off a little bit and everything like that. But you'll also be able to, and this is for viewers of the show, there's a coupon code if you would like to buy things from their web store, which is at rec-age.net. You can see it down here. And the coupon code, because Matt is funny, is Osgiliath, which, if you were watching a couple episodes ago, I was having a hard time with pronouncing Osgiliath, as in the ruins of Osgiliath, which I have right here. So these are the ruins of Osgiliath from Games Workshop, and I was mispronouncing it, and my wife was laughing at me, and Matt was laughing at me, and so the coupon code is Osgiliath right there, and it's all in caps. So you will get 15% off of your order if you use the coupon code at rec-age.net, rec-age.net. There's a description or a link in the description below as well, and so go check out their stuff and buy some cool models and instructions. There's also downloadable free, some downloadable free scenario type PDFs there too. You don't get 15% off the free stuff, but everything else you do. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, so I'll be mentioning that on and off a little bit more during the episode as it goes along. So anyway, let's see here. We've got Australia, Greece, Virginia, Smokin' Smile. Smokin' Simile? Tried painting on the sprues, and I went a little batshit crazy. Yeah. I did a video just recently about painting in sub-assemblies, and I talked about how some people like to paint directly on the sprue and then cut the pieces off the sprue and then put everything together. I can't do that because then I have to go back and repaint the parts where I clipped, and I have to go through all that stuff, and it seems I can't see the use to it myself personally. People do it, you know, that's cool. If that's how they like to work it, that's great, but I would not necessarily suggest going that direction, you know, especially if you're new to the whole idea of subassemblies. So, yeah, it drives it. I don't know. Let's see here. Hi, Adam chimed in for the first time from the Netherlands. Just finished a game of 9th Age, and I'm now going to paint with your awesome wet palette. The wet palette is a game changer. And again, I didn't invent the wet palette. I just did a video about it that's been pretty popular. But it is something definitely that if you've not tried before, go watch the video. And you can build your own wet palette just out of like some little Tupperware container and some paper towel and some baking parchment. Watch the video, learn how to do it, because it will make your painting astoundingly better. You'll be able to keep your paint, and it really, really helps. So you definitely want to give that a try. Let's see, looks like we're going through a little bit of frame droppage as per usual. I don't know why this happens almost every morning when we do this. It's my cable company. They're a bunch of idiots, so it'll come back. And there it is. So I don't know why this happens nearly every Sunday morning at the beginning of the show, but it has something to do with my garbage cable company, Time Warner. Thank goodness. Oh, and I forgot to mention, yes, Matthew, about the coupon code, which is here. That's good for 2 weeks. So you've got 2 weeks, and then you're cool. I should have mentioned that in there, but I forgot to. So I appreciate Matthew for mentioning it. So yes, 2 weeks on the coupon code, and then you can kind of go from there. So Gary West says he's doing his Skaven Plague Claw in sub-assemblies at the moment. I built mine in... I didn't do sub-assemblies except for there's a couple of extra rats that are like standing on the edges of it, and I left them off. So that's kind of a sub-assembly. But otherwise, the majority of the rest of it, the wheels and the arm that throws the rat feces and all that kind of stuff, that I built all in one piece, which I'm possibly going to be sad about. But again, it's not a display, project for me, so it should be fine. Hungover greetings from Denmark. I don't think I didn't drink anything last night. Nope. My wife had one of her bands had a show, and so I went and I had coffee because it was at a coffee shop. So yeah, and now I'm having more coffee right there. Let's see. Painting sprues for skeletons seems to make sense rather than something complicated. Yeah, I don't know. I just have a hard time painting on the sprue, but I do like to sometimes paint separate pieces. When I start to do, eventually, whenever this day comes, when I start to do my Stormcast, because they have those giant honking shields. Those giant honking shields will not be on when I paint them, and then they will go on later. But like the other guys who don't have big shields, like the guys with like 2 hammers or whatever, I'll be painting them probably all as one piece. So that will be my 3rd army, by the way. With the starter box that I bought, that that came with the Bloodborne and the Stormcast, bought that quite a while ago. That mixed in with a couple little pieces I bought at my local shop, and a couple little pieces that I bought on eBay. I've got a 1,000-point army now sitting in a box. So eventually, once I get to a point with my Nurgle Chaos and my Death Skeletons, I may start working on them. But even if I don't do it for a while, at least I've got them. So if stuff goes out of production, I've got things that I want to go with. So I'm cool with that. Let's see here. Jensen says, currently painting zombies from the board game Last Night on Earth. Super bendy plastic. Yes, I'm familiar with that game, and those zombies are not necessarily meant to be painted. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying that I don't think that they were thinking of that. Not like the Zombicide guys. The Zombicide plastic is less bendy and it paints up better. We've seen plenty of nicely painted versions online, but yeah, it's the stuff from Last Night on Earth and the stuff from Zombies! I would say that neither of those, and plus they're very small, from Zombies! They're not particularly meant to be painted, I think. So let's see here. These past weeks, you mentioned streamlining and gateway games a few times. Any thoughts on Dead Zone 2nd Edition from Mantic? When Dead Zone first came out, I was interested mainly just in the terrain. And I was like, well, I'm not going to get into the Kickstarter just to get the terrain, and I'm going to have to get rid of all that stuff. Then they came up with an extra level to the Kickstarter that said, hey, if you just want to buy the terrain, you can do that. So I did that. So I've got a bunch of the terrain in the basement. Then I got interested in the game later and ended up buying it from my local shop. And then I built and painted some stuff. I built some terrain and I painted some terrain, and then I did some of the Corp guys, the Enforcers, and some of the Plague guys. Enough to build up to 70-point armies or whatever in first edition. And then we never really particularly painted it or played it. Like, I brought it to Adepticon 2015 maybe and set it up, and then we were going to play, and then we didn't. And anyway, so I do have a copy of the second rule book in PDF because technically I was in on the Kickstarter for the first one. So I was able to get a copy of the second rule book, and I just haven't had a chance to read through it yet. And I know that it's supposed to be streamlined and it's supposed to help a bit with the rules, because the rules, honestly, in the first one were a little... they weren't user-friendly. I'm not saying they were bad, but reading the instructions was difficult to some degree. And I think that was kind of an issue. So I'm looking forward to maybe getting into that, but I haven't really pulled it out and really started to read it yet lately. So, but it's on my iPad, so I can kind of go that direction. Stormcast shields are crazy big. I'm painting the wings separately from the prosecutors. Yeah, I don't know if I would... I might do that. The prosecutors are the guys with the big crazy wings that fly, and I might paint those wings separately. I'll have to see how they go together and then see if it's easy or not. If it's not easy, then I might just keep them all together and just kind of deal with it. Mark says, you're going Stormcast. Excellent. They were my first AOS army, slow and steady, but pretty good when I've played them. I don't know. I just want to build them and paint them, and I don't want to paint them normal. So I think I'm looking at the project that way. Plus, I just would be nice to have maybe some good guys, especially if you're playing and I'm trying to teach somebody. I could give them the Stormcast, and I could play, somebody else, and then they can kind of see that. So we'll see how it goes. Kevin R. says, good morning from Southern Maryland. Love the channel. Gave me the courage to start painting miniatures. Well, I'm glad that I was able to help. I like to be able to get new people into the hobby. And so I'm glad to hear it when people are getting into the hobby, and partially because of watching these videos and watching stuff on my channel, and I appreciate that. Let's see here. Peter Pan says, I usually paint all my minis in some kind of subassembly. I just think it makes painting much easier, especially when it comes to orc tongues and teeth. The Mega Boss, the new Iron Jaws Mega Boss, he's got that giant honkin' metal jaw in front of his face. I'm not sure how you would paint his actual head if you weren't going to do it in sub-assemblies. I've got a friend who put one together and got excited and glued it all together, and then I was like, how are you going to paint his face now that you've glued the jaw thingy in front of the armor? He's like, I hadn't thought of that. So it's a lot of fun to build, guys, and you kind of get excited sometimes, but then you have to sort of like, well, maybe I shouldn't have built so much of it, because now you're going to have a harder time painting it. So think of that when you're putting the models together. There are times when the sub-assembly stuff is really actually pretty useful. Rice says, will you paint the Stormcasts as GW, or will you do your own color scheme? I will definitely do my own color scheme. It's not that I don't like the gold and blue, it's just that I want to try something different. I might go silver and black. I might go more of like a ceramic, almost like a bone color. A friend of mine recently was like, oh, you should paint them like Deathwing. And I'm like, I don't know. That's kind of I've been working on it in bone color enough lately with the skeletons that I don't necessarily know that I want to go that direction, but we'll see how it goes. I haven't decided yet, and I am trying to still figure it out, and at least get an idea before I even get anywhere near it, which again, it's still a ways out. I mean, I might get them started this winter, but I don't know. I've got a lot of chaos and death to get through too. Most recent thing that was on my workbench is a Terrorgeist for death that I bought on eBay, and it was in parts. And it was on the rectangular base from Regular Fantasy, and it was partially primed, and it was just kind of a hot mess. I had to do a lot of work to kind of rebuild it and strengthen it up and put it on a round base, because I'm that kind of dork, and I like to do that. So I put him on a round base, went through all of that, and hopefully I'm going to have him textured, the rest of his base textured soon, and then I want to prime him, because I want to prime him with the bone spray paint that I like, and there's not a lot of time left here in Wisconsin to do that before the weather gets terrible for priming outside. I could prime him with my airbrush inside, but I'd rather just kind of have him match everything else in the army, so I want to use that bone spray paint. I've also got 20 skeletons with bows that also kind of need that same sort of situation, and I don't know if that's going to happen, so I might have to find another option that I can use that looks the same, but I can use my airbrush to do it. So I'll figure that out. I might just prime them light gray and then use a bone colored airbrush paint, and then work from there, but we'll see how it works out. Let's see here. Just joined a real nice gaming group. What a difference between gaming at the GW store. Yeah, I mean, a lot of Games Workshop stores, from what I understand, and honestly, I don't really have any close by. Like, the closest Games Workshop store to me is probably, I don't know, like 100, 120 miles away. But from what I understand, you don't play at Games Workshop stores as much as you used to. At least the ones here around by me. So maybe by you, your mileage may vary. But from what I understand, that's not really what they want you to do. They want you to come buy stuff and kind of go. It's the independent stores that are always really generally glad to see you come in and play and things like that. So yeah, I always just generally play at my local store. Once I get the basement kind of jiggered back to where I want it to be and everything like that, I'll probably play there sometimes too, and hopefully be doing some battle reports with that as well. I just filmed an episode, a new Painting with the Pro with Sam, yesterday. It will go up probably the Friday that I'm in Utah for Valhalla. So that's not this upcoming Friday, but the Friday after, I think. So anyway, like the 7th of October. That's probably when that video will go up. So we were in the studio shooting, and if you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw some behind-the-scenes footage in my stories, which is kind of their ripoff of Snapchat stories. Anyway, the point is that he and I were talking a little bit. He's working on orcs, actually, or orcs, for Age of Sigmar, and he thinks that at some point it would be fun to do potentially some bat reps. So once he kind of gets further along that point, then maybe we'll start to see some of that stuff with him and I, which would be a lot of fun, and we'd do it down in the basement, and it'll be cool. So let's see here. Prosecutor wings from the Prosecutor box, snap on for ease of transport, so definitely keep them off if you're doing them. Would you have to magnetize them, Mark? I'd have to look at that. It would make sense to be able to pop them off for transport because they are fragile looking, but yeah, I could see that. Let's see here. Hi, Adam. Would you consider doing a TW Gear video talking about your audio-video subject? I don't know what a TW Gear is. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I eventually may do a video about my audio-video setup. But yeah, potentially. I don't know. There's a lot of people out there who ask questions about it, and I generally try to help. I think that you might sometimes be surprised about all the shenanigans that I have to go through to make a video. And I'm probably doing some things wrong, like I do them my own special way, and it's not necessarily right. But eventually, at some point, I probably will do some of that. But yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Is it safe to use Games Workshop primers indoors? With my asthma, I'm really not sure if it's safe. I would say no then. Specifically, if you've got asthma, I would say don't. I will not use dull coat, Tester's dull coat, indoors. I dull coated these models yesterday, the ones I'm going to show you in a while, and I did that outside, and I will not dull coat inside. Like if you've got a garage, you could do it in there maybe, and then like see if you can get the air to blow out real quick or something like that, like if it's cold. But yeah, I really wouldn't use any kind of spray aerosol primer in the house at all. Plus, just the fact that it'll smell bad for like a really long time, it could also trigger asthma, I would think. So yeah, definitely a well-ventilated area, and you will, as Stuart says, get paint dust everywhere. That's also true. The Noob Painter says they opened a GW store near here. It had just 1 or 2 gaming tables and mostly filled with merch. Yeah, years ago I went to a Games Workshop store outside of Chicago. This is like 2010, and it was called the Chicago Battle Bunker, but it was in Downers Grove, I want to say, which is kind of a suburb of Chicago, west of Chicago. And it was humongous. Like, I walked into that place, and they had like a nice, retail area and stuff over in the corner, but there were more than a dozen tables set up in this place. This place was amazing. The Chicago Battle Bunker was astounding, and they were 4x8 tables, not 4x6, and every single one of them was amazingly done, and they were all different themes. There's jungle one, swamp one, blasted moon rock one, and they were astounding. And then it closed eventually, and now they don't have one there. But at the time, back in the day, that was like a mecca. That was amazing. So, yeah. Let's see. People have mentioned that I say "let's see here" when I'm looking at the chat over here, and that's probably just going to keep happening because that's what I'm actually doing. Is I'm seeing here what people are asking. So if it starts to bug you, I apologize, but I don't know that I can fix that. I'm old. Hi, I'm glad to make one of these live for once. I live in Fairbanks, Alaska, and getting up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday isn't really an option, but I'm in Kansas for business, and 9 a.m. is much more reasonable. 9 a.m. is much more reasonable than 6 a.m., and I appreciate it. So getting up at 6 when you're in Alaska, that's fine. I appreciate it, but it's nice to hear that you're in Kansas and can catch one of these. That's cool. I appreciate it. Andrew, I missed the name. Sorry, it went off. Just now tried the painting stick with 5 minis. Best tip ever, says Peter. Yeah, whenever I'm painting anything where there's a bunch of them, if I'm painting like a specific, like these guys that I'm going to show you in a little bit from Rec Age, I paint it all separately on different pill bottles so that I could pick one up, work on him a little bit, set him down while he's drying, and then just keep doing it that way. But when I was doing skeletons most recently, I did those dozen skeletons, or however many there were. Yeah, it was a dozen, because I used 4 of them on 3 sticks, and I just used poster putty. Go and see the video. I think it's an Uncle Adam's pro tip about using paint sticks, and it just allows you to really assembly line. You can just go through and be like, okay, this guy's helmet, and this guy's helmet, and this guy's helmet, and you've got them all in one stick, and you can set the whole stick down and pick up another one. It works really super well. It's a great kind of tip. Somebody else showed me how to do it, but with popsicle sticks and the little tiny dudes from Flames of War. And I thought, well, I could probably just scale that up. You know what I mean? Just by it'd be great. So it is a good tip. I'm glad that people are watching it and learn about it. Slime Man says, hi Adam, I recently got into Infinity. Can you recommend any particular army to collect? No, I don't really know anything about. I own some Pan-Oceania, and I've put together maybe 2 figures, and they drove me nuts. And I've played a couple of demos. Most recent one was with Sam at our local shop, and the rules just don't grab me, and so I'm not the right guy to ask. If you went to Sam's website, which is samsonminis.blogspot.com, it's always at least at the end of most of the videos that he's done on this channel, and I think it's also in the description, so if you can find it there. He might be the person to ask, honestly, because he plays a lot more than I do. But yeah, I don't really know a ton about Infinity, so I'm not a good resource for that. It's midnight, and I want to go paint, but the wife will wake up and come get me. Then, okay. You must be, gosh, if it's midnight, you got to be maybe over near Asia, I would think, at this point. Wouldn't it be? Smokin' Smilly? I can't pronounce that, I'm sorry. Arnold says, I have my prosecutor's wings off for future magnetization, which is hard to say, and I can't imagine them staying on without glue or magnets. Yeah, I was thinking about magnets when someone mentioned taking them off. I thought, well, magnets would probably be pretty good, but I have to look at the build. When you try to magnetize stuff, I should do a video about magnetizing things, because there's a lot of little nuances that sometimes can be confusing. Like the thing about, like, if you put the magnets in the wrong way and now they're polar opposites and they try to push each other away, that is super not helpful for trying to keep like arms and legs on guys or whatever. So yeah. But yeah, that's a good thing. I heard Wisconsin, they're opening a GW store in Des Moines, Iowa. I live 25 minutes from there. It's going to be small because it's opening in a mall. Most of the GW stores that are being opened in America these days, from what I understand, are one-person stores. What that means is only one person works there. So if that person has to go to the bathroom, the store has to close. If that person is sick that day, the store has to close. They need to work 7 days a week if they want to be open 7 days a week. That's kind of the way it works. And so that's kind of weird in my mind, but they're all pretty tiny like that from what I understand, at least these days in America. Matthew, our moderator, says the Battle Bunker was in fact in Downers Grove by Portillo's. My wife and I visited there, like I said, 2010. We were in Chicago for a wedding, and on the way out I was like, hey, we should stop at the Battle Bunker. It sounds really cool. And then we went there, and it was very cool. Hello from Cape Town, South Africa. Hello. Hi Adam, enjoy your videos. What are your opinions on choosing limited amounts of paints? I don't want to buy insane amounts of paint, but still want to want enough to paint good miniatures. I've got a friend who's kind of going through this right now. He's just getting into painting, and he didn't want to just go drop a couple $100 on all the paints, or whatever. So what I would do is I would watch some videos, or just, they don't have to be videos. You could just go and look for information on the web or blogs or whatever about mixing paints. Like, we all know, like, yellow and blue makes green, and red and yellow makes orange and things like that. But that kind of stuff and understanding how that kind of stuff works can really help it, so that you're like, I don't quite have the right orange here. Well, if I add a little yellow to it, it will get more of this color that I actually want, as opposed to just going and buying another bottle. Like, the benefit to having separate bottles of everything is that you can then go back and be like, oh, okay, well, I need more of this color for this thing. Whereas if it's several, you may not remember how you mixed this color to make these guys match. If they're, if it's a skirmish game and everybody kind of dresses different, then it doesn't matter. But if you're painting an army, you're like, I need it to be the specific orange or whatever, and so you buy a bottle of that stuff. But learning how to do that kind of thing, learning how to mix paints is really going to help. So definitely. Have you ever played another pitched AOS battle? I've just done the one so far because I've been very busy. We're hoping, like, this upcoming weekend. Actually, I was talking to my friend Kevin. He wants to play again this upcoming weekend. So yeah, we're going to hopefully do that. And I've got another friend who's building Sylvaneth, and he wants to play soon. And I know another guy who's got Lizardmen and Chaos, and I'm hoping to play. So yeah, I'm hoping to get some games in, and definitely while I'm at Valhalla, which is not this upcoming week, but I think the week after, it's the October 3rd to the 7th, I'll be in Utah at Valhalla. I am bringing along 1,000 points of Chaos, so I'll be playing games there, probably a good deal. And so yeah, I'll be enjoying that and seeing how that works out. So definitely looking forward to that. Let's see here. Hello from Scotland. Hello. We got a GW store here in Sweden. There are at least 4 people working there, a lot of times 3 at a time. Oh, well, you're lucky. That's cool. We, like I said, a lot of the ones that are being opened in America are all one-person stores. So, and I don't know if that's just I'm assuming it's more of a economic thing or whatever, but yeah. Let's see. Adam, I got to Gen Con for the first time in 12 years and was amazed at the attendance. Was it this last year? Because from what I understand, if it was a couple months ago, back in August, this year's attendance was down a little bit, from what I've heard, from 2015. So, but still, we're still talking around 60,000 people. So that's a lot. It's a humongous convention. Gen Con it's the biggest in America. And it's pretty interesting. I am considering, I would like to go next year potentially. I missed this year because I just didn't. It was a lot of, I just started a new job and things like that, and I really wasn't planning on going. But yeah, I definitely do kind of want to go next year, because next year will be the 50th year of Gen Con, which is astounding to me. But yeah, 50 years of Gen Con, so I definitely kind of like to try to get there next year. Let's see. If you're into post-apocalyptic games, I guess you should check out Afterglow. However, watch out alongside typical human survivors. You've got post-apocalyptic, the dwarves, elves. Well, that doesn't sound super post-apocalyptic then. I've never heard of Afterglow. I'll take a look at it. Tantum says, Adam, can you make a tutorial on how to photograph miniatures? Probably. There is a channel that did one just recently that I liked. At least I remember liking it. If you do a search on YouTube for S-Dubist, which is S as in Sam, D as in dog, U, B as in boy, I-S-T, S-Dubist, I believe is the channel. He's a guy that I met at Adepticon last year. His name is Scott, and he makes some pretty decent videos, and I'm pretty sure he did one recently within the last 3-4 months about painting, or about how to photograph miniatures. But yeah, it's a little bit of an art, because you kind of not only need to have sort of like the lighting right and stuff like that, but you also have to understand, at the very least, aperture and how that relates to focal, depth of field and things like that, and that's kind of important. So yeah, but I may end up doing a video about it, or some sort of pro tip or something like that. Will you be at Adepticon this year? I would like to attend that con for the first time. Would love a chance to chat. Yes, I will definitely be at Gen Con 2017. I've already got my hotel room set up and everything, so I'm looking forward to that. That one's my favorite convention out there, even more than Gen Con. It's, for those of you who haven't heard before, I've gone on and on about it. It is a convention that is just miniatures. It's just tabletop wargaming. It's far smaller than Gen Con. It's 3,000 to 4,000 people, but everybody there is there to play tabletop war games and to learn how to paint better and to learn how to do tournaments and all kinds of stuff like that. And there's demos and everything. So yeah, definitely. Matthew, our moderator, will also be there, and as will Anton, and they'll be selling Wreckage. Matt lives seriously like, maybe 20 minutes away from Adepticon, something like that. So yeah, he'll be there. I live about 3 hours away, which is a lot closer for me than getting to Gen Con. Gen Con's about 6.5 hours by car, whereas it's all less than 3 for me to get to Adepticon. So I will definitely be at Adepticon this year. I'm looking forward to it. Let's see here. The New Painter says, you're spot on. When I went into the GW store near me, it was just one guy on a Saturday afternoon. Matt says they just flat out close all the ones near me. Yeah, I think that GW is getting better as an organization, and they're doing some things better, but they are still kind of in a situation where they're, they were in financial trouble, I think, to some degree, and I think that part of that has caused them to have to close some stores, but they're moving things around, and it'll be interesting to see how things go, as time progresses. But like I said, I don't have any of their stores near me at all. The one that's, like I said, that's like 100 and 120 miles away from me, I don't know that I've ever actually been to it. Maybe once years ago, but I haven't been there for 4 years, or for at least a long time, so yeah. I think the larger GW stores like Manchester near me will have more staff. More provincial places tend to have just the one, but I don't know if that's just me. The north of England is pretty weird. I'm going to take your word on that part about the north of England, but yeah, I can understand that. In bigger cities, sometimes they'll probably have more people, whereas in the kind of outlying areas, they'll have fewer. That makes sense. So you live in an itty-bitty town, but you've got 25 minutes to a new store. That's pretty helpful. Yeah, I don't live in a tiny town, but Wisconsin, the entire state, I think only has 2 stores currently, and they're not super far away from each other, which is kind of a bummer. Matthew was at Gen Con this year. 10,000 of the people at Gen Con this year were either Deadpool or Harley Quinn. So, you got that going for you, I guess. There's a lot of cosplay at Gen Con, which can be kind of a bummer. I have no problem with cosplay, especially well done cosplay. They make a great craft. They're crafts people, to be able to build this stuff. It's just like when they have that big cosplay parade, you just can't get anywhere. Like the entire place sort of shuts down while you watch people walk, shamble by in their outfits, and I just want to get over there, and you can't. So because if you try to cut through that parade, people they get angry. They don't like it. So yeah. The Nude Painter says, yes, it was S-Dub that did that video. There are 2. One is an overview and the other is in depth. So I would definitely take a look at those, because he does good photos too of his models. He's good at that. And he's a nice guy. Like I said, I met him in person for the first time at Adepticon last year. He was there for like a day. He did a video from Adepticon where he interviewed me, he interviewed Sam, and a couple other people. Just short little stuff, but it was fun. He's a good guy, and he's planning on going again, I think, this year too. Let's see. By the way, did anyone of you hear the League of Legends have released a small tabletop game with characters from the game? Yes, I heard it's called Mech and Minions or something like that. Mechs and Minions. And it's funny because I have a Google alert set up to send me a message whenever the words tabletop and minions show up in certain things, like close to each other. And all of a sudden, earlier this week, I got a whole bunch of alerts in a row because they were talking about this tabletop game called Mechs and Minions. So I did hear about it pretty much right after they announced it, which was interesting. So yeah, I haven't really looked at it, and I don't really know, frankly, a lot about League of Legends, other than I know that it's a esports staple, and a lot of people play it and all that kind of stuff. But I don't really know much about the game itself. So yeah, I'll have to take a look at the board game though and see if it's kind of interesting or not. Let's see. Be happy. My closest unofficial GW store is an hour on a plane. Wow, or 3 hours if you want an official one. So you have to fly for an hour to get to the unofficial Games Workshop store. That's not good. For Age of Sigmar, has anyone tried out the Times of War rules yet? Discovered them in the app and would like to know what the opinion people have about them. I have not done any of the Times of War stuff. Someone asked me recently about the, when you're supposed, it says in the rules you're supposed to pick your realm and say, oh, well, we're going to be playing in this realm. I don't know, around here people don't ever usually do that because it just seems like it's just going to throw in extra weird stuff that is maybe not super necessary. And you're like, well, if this thing affects one group better than the other group, that seems sort of unfair. So we generally don't do it that way. But plus, more often than not, those types of rules, you do them and you're like, okay, we're going to do this and these are the benefits, and then you forget for the rest of the game and just don't do it. So yeah, I don't really know much about the Times of War stuff, but I like that they're adding those things in there, but I also like the fact that we can just decide, I'm not going to play with that, So it's cool that they're there, but you don't have to play with them if you don't want to. Let's see. You should attend in Drippy cosplay. Xandos, I don't think that would be a good idea. I think that, first of all, I don't think I'm skilled enough to build a really good, Lord Drippy costume. But secondly, not Adepticon. Indiana, which is where Gen Con is, in August, it would be hot. I would die, and so I don't want to do that. So I can't think of a cosplay that I would do. I'm not even very good at Halloween, frankly. I'm just not, that's not my thing. So yeah, somebody else should do a really cool Drippy costume, but they should figure out a way to air condition it so that they don't croak. Because like I said, Indiana, specifically Indianapolis, downtown Indianapolis in the middle of or beginning of August, can be steamy. So yeah. What do I think of Fire Slayers? Started my first army and working hard to get them painted for the first battle. Hope they do decently well. From what I know of the Fire Slayers, they are mostly naked. There's a lot of elf butt sometimes in those in that army, which is fun. And I know that they're pretty good at close combat. I don't know if they have much range. A lot of my guys don't have range. Like a lot of my chaos stuff, I'm very light on range until I start bringing more Skaven in, then I can get a little bit more range. But yeah. I think they can throw axes, the Fire Slayers, but I don't know that they don't have guns or bows or anything like that. But so from what I understand, they're tough, but you may not be, range is maybe a bit of an issue. So I prefer to buy from other retailers who offer discounts on GW products. Honestly, I do the same. My local store generally has a 20% discount on most GW stuff. So except for the Start Collecting boxes, they sell those at retail, but those are such a good deal to begin with that he's like, well, this is $150 worth of stuff, or maybe $120 depending on the army, of stuff in an $85 box, so he's not going to mark it down more. So yeah, but otherwise most everything else he sells usually at 20% off, and so I like to support, again, it's the local retailer, so that helps too. So I did recently buy stuff from the Games Workshop website, which made me feel just a tiny little bit dirty. But that Terrorgeist I was talking about before, he needed a round base, and the one that, if you buy a Terrorgeist new now, he comes on a 130 millimeter round base, and you cannot find, nobody else makes those. Like companies that make resin bases like Secret Weapon, they don't make 130. Nobody makes a 130 millimeter base. So I'm like, all right, well, I can get one for $6 on the GW site. But then I was like, well, but you get free shipping at $65. So I'm like, well, what else is on that site that you can't get anywhere else besides that site. They have things on the GW site that are what they call web store exclusives. You cannot get them at a Games Workshop store. You cannot get your local store to order them. Like you can only buy them through the website. So I found Ungors, they're goat people, beastmen, but they're slightly fancier, and you can build them to be archers. So I bought 2 boxes of 10 of those, and they're surprisingly inexpensive. And then I also bought a little goat person shaman, and then it came to like $66, and I was like, okay, cool, free shipping. So yeah, otherwise I generally I haven't bought anything from the GW store online since 2007 or 2008, whenever the 3rd edition Space Hulk came out. And actually I think I might have called them instead of doing it on the web. I don't remember. But yeah, otherwise I don't buy stuff direct from them generally. I like to buy it at my local store, but I didn't have much of a choice here, so that's what I did. That was a long story, so there you go. It's good. Let's see here. $6 for a base. That's steep. Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it's basically like a little plastic plate, I mean, it's got some supports underneath it so that it doesn't sag and things like that. There's some engineering going into it, I agree, but yeah. Grant says, oops, did I miss the Wreck Age stuff already? No, you did not. I don't usually talk about whatever the subject of the episode is until at least after the first hour. So usually around 10 o'clock my time, aka about an hour in, that's when I usually try to talk about it. Sometimes a little bit later, but usually not much sooner. However, it is time for me to mention again that if you would like to pick up some stuff from Wreck Age, you can do so by going to rec-age.net, and you can use the coupon code Osgiliath. My wife just gave me the nod because I said it right. Matthew's making fun of me here because a couple episodes ago I kept mispronouncing this word when showing off my ruins of Osgiliath, and so he made the coupon code Osgiliath, all caps. If you do it at checkout on the web store, take a look at the instructions, the books, the rules. They just recently had the Shangri-La addition to the system, which is basically LA, the ruins of LA. But there's also a lot of models and things like that, so you can check that out. You get 15% off of your order at recage.net. This is a special deal for Tabletop Minions fans, and it's good for 2 weeks. So yeah, take a look and check things out. And I'll be showing the models that I painted that you saw in the title thing, which goes right here. You'll be seeing these guys in a little bit, probably about another 15 minutes or so. So there you go. They were fun to paint, and I enjoyed doing that. Let's see. Cyrex says, darn it, I have to go now. We'll be watching the rest later. Thanks a lot, Adam, for all the hard work you're doing, making me more passionate about the hobby. Take care. You as well, Cyrex. Take care. Again, the reason that I do these and the reason that they're generally 2 hours long is, and they're not super visually, it's not a big visual thing, is because it's kind of like a podcast. A lot of people like to paint while they're just listening to this. Maybe they've got it on their laptop or their screen, but they're mainly just listening. I love to listen to stuff when I'm painting. I did a video about how important it is to listen to audio while you're painting, because you kind of get to multitask. You get to do sort of 2 things at once, and that's cool, because you can be listening to an audiobook or another podcast, learning about stuff, having a good time, but you're also painting. And so that's one of the reasons I do this show. It's kind of longer. People can listen to it, use it as a podcast. People have said that I should try to figure out a way to, it's called scraping the audio, where you basically just pull the audio out and actually make it as a podcast. I haven't gone down that road yet, but I might at some point, so we'll see. Let's see here. Matthew says, ruins turned out great, big guy. Well, thanks. They were fun to paint. They're not, like, the actual ruins of Osgiliath are generally kind of white if you've watched the movies. That's I think that's the 3rd movie, and it's that kind of ruins of that outpost outside of Minas Tirith. My wife is not paying attention. The ruins of Osgiliath, they're outside of Minas Tirith, right? That's that outpost out there that's got all the orcs and the goblins and stuff hanging out in it. Yeah. And they're mainly white. It's white stone like a lot of the rest of Minas Tirith, and I'm going to be using these for Age of Sigmar and not actually playing, Lord of the Rings with them, so I painted them kind of gray. And they were fun to do. It's mainly just a lot of some airbrushing, some washes, some dry brushing, that kind of stuff. Works out pretty well. So yeah, they were a lot of fun. Let's see here. I prefer to buy from stores where I can play games, so no online sales unless from someplace that has tables and welcomes gamers, or for stuff that's out of print or mega dirt cheap. I generally don't buy online. The only reason I bought that stuff from GW is because it was the only place I could get that base that I really wanted. I do sometimes buy things from eBay, again, stuff that's out of production, or stuff that I'm like, I want to practice on this, and so I'll just strip it and that kind of thing. A couple weeks ago, or a couple episodes ago, I showed the Krell, the Lord of Undeath. He's out of print or production, I guess, from what I understand. So I had to, I found him on eBay. But yeah, generally I don't buy online too much. I like to buy from my local store because I like my local store to be there. So yeah, I did a video about that too, about supporting your local store. You should watch that. I wish I could do the kind of pa-chow, make it pop up here, but I can't do that live, so it doesn't work. In my regular videos it works, but I can't do it here, so. I considered grabbing a high elf dragon and painting him up dark and sinister. Well, that sounds kind of cool. Yeah, I could see that. My friend at work who's painting Sylvaneth is making them look all kind of spooky, sort of like ghostly woods, and they look really cool, actually. He's showed me some pictures, so I'm looking forward to that. If you want to snag a PDF of the Wreckage book, click this link, says Matthew. Oh, that's cool. So you could get yourself a PDF of the Wreckage rules and click that link, and he can do that. So if you're interested, check that out. If you're watching this as a recording, sorry, it won't be there, but it's fine. You'll be able to check it out. Again, if you go and hang on, do it right here, Pachow, there you go. So you can do that, and you could use coupon code OzGiliath at the checkout, 15% off your order at wreckage.net. That's rec-age.net. This offer is good for 2 weeks from today's date, which is the 25th of October, so keep that in mind. Let's see here. See, I said it again. Any experience with World War I games or miniatures? No. I've played World War II stuff. I just recently received my package from Warlord Games. They sent me an American starter box for Conflict 47 and also an extra kind of medium-sized mech. The starter box comes with a light mech, and then they sent me the medium-sized mech. Grizzly, I believe, is the name of that one, the designation. If you've been watching me on social media, I showed off the boxes like last week or whatever and stuff. So I'm going to be starting to build those guys and everything, like talking about that. So World War II, yes. World War I, no. There's not a lot of games out there for World War I that I know of. I know that Battlefront did a World War I set that was like Flames of War, but it was in World War I. I don't know that it ever took off. They did a Vietnam one as well. And they did a modern one. This is even before Team Yankee, I think. Now Team Yankee is a whole separate thing. But yeah, I don't know about a lot of games that do World War I. It's an interesting period. I've seen games that do like a sci-fi version of World War I almost, like, or they'll have the same kind of like great coats and the same type of helmets, but it's a sci-fi kind of group of models and things like that. I know that Warzone has got, one of the factions in Warzone reminds me a lot of like World War I sort of uniforms, but they've got like laser guns and stuff. Let's see. Thanks for the link to the Wreckage book. Looking forward to reading it later, says James. Yes, it's interesting. Stuart asks, are the Ghost Sylvaneth pictures on your Facebook page? They are not, as of yet. It's a coworker of mine. He's started painting. He has showed me pictures on his phone, but I don't think he's posted any yet on the site, on the Paint Showcase Club. He is a member of the Paint Showcase Club, I'm 98% sure, and he's probably listening to this, although not live. Hello, Jason. Yeah, he showed me some pictures, and he's working on the dryads that come in the Start Collecting box, and he's doing a lot of dry brushing so that they're kind of like, the wood is kind of gray, and he's, instead of the eyes being red, they're kind of more like a glowing blue, and I think they're going to look cool. So I'll be playing against him eventually once he gets his stuff all painted up, and we're looking forward to that. I've been painting for about 7 months or so. I'm not happy with many of my paint jobs. Well, Gary, patience is important, and practice. Patience, practice, and persistence, I think, is what I said recently in a video about getting discouraged. I did a video about getting discouraged and how you... The worst thing you can do in some situations is to look at people who've been painting for 20 years and are pros and award winners and then compare yourself to them and go, well, mine doesn't look like that. It's important to just kind of sort of head down and make sure that the next model that you paint is better than the last one you painted, and just kind of keep going that way. Don't concern yourself too much with how other people are doing as far as that's concerned. You can look at them for inspiration, but it's never good to compare yourself to other people like that. It's always best to compare yourself to what you were like yesterday or the day before. Did this paint job turn out better than my last paint job? If so, you're progressing, and that's really the most important thing. So, Sir Swittenwa, anyone pumped for Blood Bowl? I think so. I mean, not me necessarily, but I think it seems like a lot of people are very interested that they're bringing back the Specialist Games line, and it made sense to me when I heard that they were bringing back Specialist Games. My thought was, well, they're going to bring back Blood Bowl for sure, because that's one of the most popular of the Specialist Games line, and as it turns out, yeah, that's the first one they're bringing back, so that makes sense. I think that because they had the video games, those were pretty popular as well. I don't know. For me, I don't know if I would be getting back into it, but I am glad that they're bringing back some of those more, I hate to say niche games, but they kind of are. Yeah, I think that it's great that people who've been really hungering for that game for quite some time since it's been out of production are finally going to have something new to play with. That'll be really cool. So, greetings from Finland. Hello. Apart from you being a YouTuber, what is your job? That's a good question. I am a UX UI designer for a small little company here nearby, about 20 miles away. And UX UI, basically the company that I work for, we predominantly work in mobile. We do apps and stuff like that for your phone. Most of the stuff that we do is for hire, i.e. we don't make like an app and go, oh, hey, this is an app and you should do it. It's the fart noise app or whatever. We work for companies who are either doing business to business or business to consumer. So companies come to us and say, hey, we need an app that does this for our business. So then we work for them to do that. So we generally do a lot of work for hire. We will eventually start doing our own products, our own apps, but we haven't gotten to that point quite yet. What I do, UX and UI, UX stands for user experience, and UI stands for user interface. So user interface is a lot of the look, kind of, and feel. User experience is when you do this, then you click on here, and then this happens. You know how like sometimes in apps, you're like, this app looks great, but I don't understand how it works. Like it just doesn't immediately just come to mind, and you're like, well, this doesn't, why should I have to click this? That's bad user experience. When it confuses you and things are difficult to use, that's bad user experience. When you start up an app and you don't have to like take a tutorial or anything like that, everything just makes sense, and that's good user experience. So that's the type of stuff that I do for the company that I work for, and I just started working for them back at the end of July, and I'm really enjoying it. And the cool thing is that of the 5 of us that work there, everybody is a tabletop gamer. One guy plays RPGs, and a couple of us play war games. A couple of us are board gamers. So like I can make a D&D joke or something like that, and everybody gets it, which is really nice. That's not normally what happens in the workplace, but that's cool. So yeah, it's a small little company, but I'm enjoying it, and I enjoy the work. And yeah, plus I also from time to time get to do videos and photography and things like that. So for our own self-promotion and things like that. It's been working out nice. I've been glad to be there. So yeah, that's what I do. I've been working in marketing adjacent something for 20 years. So that's sometimes why I get to do neat things like these logos, and my graphics usually look pretty good because I've been doing it for a long time, since college. So let's see. I should just make a t-shirt that just says, let's see here. Hello from Germany. First time I caught you live. I just restarted painting some minis. I'm in the hobby for about 12 years now, but sometimes I'm inactive for months or even years. That happens with a lot of people. It's hard sometimes to keep your motivation up. Again, I've done a video about that. You can take a look at that. That's probably 2-3 years old almost at this point. I have found that the best ways, a synopsis of that video is that the best ways are either to try to switch gears. You know, like if you're really getting tired of painting, switch over to building. Do some of that. See how that works out. You know, build some more stuff, and then maybe you'll be interested in painting. Another thing you can do is, if you're really like looking down the barrel of a whole lot of stuff you got to get painted, and you're starting to lose your kind of not your mojo, but just your motivation in general, your forward movement, go and look for some other thing. Go look for some other model that is nearly done. Finish that model, and then you're like, yay, I finished a thing, and then you hopefully have a little bit more motivation and go back, you know, and do that. Another thing you can do is just force it. You know, just fake it till you make it, basically. You know, you're like, I'm kind of losing my steam here, but you just push through, and hopefully it kind of catches up. Another thing you can do, and this is sometimes what happens, is when you kind of, you know, lose it for a while, sometimes months, sometimes years, is you just go and switch gears, start playing video games, or start doing, you know, RPGs or something like that. Everybody's kind of different, so you have to sort of find what works best for you. I have luckily had pretty good motivation over the last year. I would say this year, 2016, I've probably painted more things than I have in a long time. And I've gotten a lot more stuff finished. I mean, my Chaos Army, and I'm working on this Death Army, and I'm doing, you know, side projects like these skirmish guys and things like that. So yeah, I've had a pretty good output over the last 365. So it's interesting. How many fart noise apps have you designed user interfaces and experience for? None. We haven't done any of that. I hear that's where the big money, well, not anymore. That's where the big money used to be. There's a story going around the industry that the guys that originally designed the fart noise app made like, I don't know, $1 million in a month or something crazy like that. But I don't know that anyone's necessarily into that anymore. I'm not sure. We have not made any, so that's been good. All of our stuff there's not a lot of call for business-to-business fart apps. So that's just the problem with business these days, I guess. If a fart app isn't intuitive, it totally ruins the entire experience. That's very true, though. I'm not going to lie. Let's see. No, Melanie, meetup.com is not a hookup site. Well, at least it's not supposed to be. I know a lot of board gamers do use it to find other board gamers. It's a little weird how it works. Like meetup.com, you kind of someone has to start the group, which is fine, and then you can kind of try to find groups. The thing is, I think the groups have to pay to make a group. The users don't ever have to pay. Like if you just want to go join a group or whatever, but there's like, it's sort of weird how that works. But yeah, meetup.com, I know D&D groups that get together and board game groups, at least around by me. So that's a place to start. Certainly. Yeah, definitely. And there are probably some places that are speed dating and things like that, but yes, not all of them though. It does kind of sound, Matt's right, it does sound a bit like a hookup site. Stuart says, my place is like that, referring to the place that I work. I play D&D with the guys I work with. We're all quite nerdy into the same stuff. I'm in aerospace engineering lab, so it might attract nerds. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, IT/mobile stuff also generally kind of frequently attracts nerds. We've got an Atari 2600 in the office that's in the conference room. Sometimes we play, what were we just playing? Space War, which is like 2-player asteroids, but kind of without the asteroids. That's sort of fun. I have an old Sega Dreamcast that I think I should take in there. Because it's funny because we're playing it on we have this 4K TV in there, so trying to play Atari 2600 on a 4K TV is interesting. Let's just say that. But yeah. Dorn Jr. says, I was out for almost 13 years, missed from 2004 to 2016. I came back to the hobby to paint and relax, though, more than slap on paint and to get to store to roll dice. You have been a big help, Adam. Well, I'm glad to hear it, Dorn. Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of people find, and including myself, find that the hobby portion of it, the painting, sitting in your basement or your living room or wherever you do your hobbying, that's like, and sitting and listening to something, whether it's music or audiobooks or, you know, podcasts that make you laugh or whatever, there can be a huge amount of stress relief just relaxation, that kind of stuff, involved in that portion of the hobby. If you're a person who's like, I have to build these guys and try to paint them to the the bare minimum so that I can go to tournaments and crush my enemies, well, there's probably going to be a little bit more stress involved in that sometimes, unless you're really super relaxed by crushing your enemies or attempting to, and that's fine. But for a lot of us, the hobby, the painting, the building, all that kind of stuff, that's the stuff that's, you have to do all this stuff during the day, for work and for your family and things like that, and just whatever, just general society. But when you can kind of like center yourself and just be focusing on these little people and painting them. Again, in a sec. Any day now. Hello? Okay, it says here we're back. We'll see how it goes. Does anybody else see it being down? Anyone? There we go. And it's back. Part of what I have to do at the beginning of every show, it seems, is to go and completely reboot the router and the modem so that this thing doesn't happen, but we'll see if that even helps to fix it. So we'll see how it goes. Sega Dreamcast has one of the greatest games ever, Taxi Driver. Taxi Driver is a lot of fun, but I also have a fishing game, like a bass fishing game. That one's a lot of fun, and I even have the special controller that I bought on eBay used that looks like a fishing rod, and then you can fish, and that's a lot of fun too, to sit on your couch and fish. At least it's fun for me. I don't know. I don't actually fish in real life, and then this way you can do it. You don't have to actually touch fish or worms or anything like that, which is fun. Nordhand says, love the painting part of the hobby the most. Yeah, I do enjoy the gaming, but I'm not competitive about it. But yeah, for me, the building and the all that stuff, that's the big deal. There's a lot of talks about how the stream went down again, and now it seems to be back up. So yeah, I'll try to work on that a little bit more, and maybe call the cable company and say, hey, we'll see how it goes. Collins says, so having never been into wargaming and with next to no experience in assembling models and painting, I find myself really drawn to the orcs, AOS or 40K. Would they be manageable to start with? Well, here's the trick about orcs, is that they love to build stuff out of whatever they can find. Like, if your first army was to get into something like Stormcast or maybe Wood Elves or something like that. Like, Wood Elves are always very smooth and fine lines and pretty and whatever, and Stormcast are also very, highly, put together and built and this, that, and the other thing. Orcs, if you've got like extra glue sort of stuck on some seams, orcs are fine with that. It's just an extra weld, or you can paint it, make it look like rust. If things don't go together just perfectly, that's kind of really the orc aesthetic. The orc aesthetic is, we found a bunch of garbage on the ground, we nailed it together, and now we have a car, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, at least in 40K, that's how it works. So, yeah, people who love to convert and people who are maybe like concerned about their build quality because they're just starting out, orcs are actually really good for both of those. So the one downside to orcs, at least in 40K, I don't know about it as much in Age of Sigmar, one downside to orcs is generally you need a lot of them. They are, like, each model is light in points, but, it has a tendency to, each model is, like, maybe 5 points, so you need a lot of them to match up with somebody else, but yeah. The Noob Painter says, my friend had that stupid fishing controller for the the Dreamcast too. I wouldn't say it was stupid. I think maybe he had a different one because I have the cool one. So, mine wasn't stupid. I think a getting started box is the way to go. I love the look of the Iron Jaws. Yeah, the Iron Jaws are really cool. Like, I want to get the Mega Boss. I'm ordering one eventually, probably from my local shop. And I would like to make a diorama, or at least some little display piece. I'd like to really work on one of my first actual display pieces and use that model and do something kind of interesting with him and maybe another model, like on a little plinth or something like that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And so we'll see how it goes. But again, that's one of those things for down the road. Gary says, I'm getting more into the fun part of gaming. Did a 2,800 point game yesterday, Grey Knights versus Tau. It was a lot of fun. It was probably very long too. That's a lot of points for 40k, 2,800. But yeah, it's the gaming part is also a lot of fun for a lot of people. So 12 Neef says, did you watch the Games Workshop Age of Sigmar tournament? If so, how did you like it? I heard about it and I knew that they were streaming it. I haven't watched anything of it. Is it available on their YouTube? I don't even know. Like, from what I understand, they did it through Twitch, I think. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. If they did it through Twitch, I don't think Twitch allows you to watch stuff that's older than 24 hours. They could have changed Twitch again. The last time I messed with Twitch, that was the case. But I don't know. Hulgasaurus Rex says, if you tried Mercs 2.0, do you think it's better than Infinity? I have not tried Mercs 2.0. I was interested in getting Mercs 2.0, the book, at last Gen Con 2015, not even 2016, because I wasn't at 2016. And the book was already late in 2015. Now, from what I understand, it is finally now here in the country where you can purchase it. But it was stuck in China for, like, evidently a really long time, and it was very late. So I haven't really played 2.0. I've played version 1, and I've enjoyed it. Of the demos of Mercs 1 versus Infinity version 3 that I have played, I've enjoyed Mercs a little bit more. It just makes a little bit more sense to me, rules-wise. I don't quite know why, but it does. So, yeah. But otherwise, I haven't tried out version 2 yet. I'd like to play a demo at some point, but I haven't yet. Brandon says, sup folks, painting Dark Eldar. Well, that's cool. We're about to talk about some post-apocalyptic models is what we're about to talk about. Dustin says, try looking up the 1D4chan on Orc Tactics. It's well done. For being funny to read and sometimes almost like irreverent and silly, which I have no problem with, and frequently a lot of swearing, if you're not into that. 1D4chan actually does have some really good articles, so you can really learn a lot about either the fluff of 40k and that kind of stuff, or you can learn about actual tactics and things like that. It's actually a decent place. Connor says you can save your streams to be watchable on demand on Twitch. Okay, well that's cool. I think you can watch content on Twitch like 4 weeks old, but don't quote me on that. Yeah, see, I've never really watched a lot of Twitch. A thing that annoys me a little bit about Twitch, and I don't know if it's still the case anymore as they're getting bigger, maybe they've stopped having to do this, but for a while during prime time, whenever that actually is, if you're not one of their kind of higher up producers, if you're not one of the people who gets lots and lots and lots of traffic, they just don't show your stuff at all. I have tried to stream before from my PlayStation 4 directly to Twitch. I have a Twitch account, and I've tried to stream before, like back when the Mad Max game came out. I was like, oh, I'll stream Mad Max, and it'll be cool. And I was just not getting any viewers. I mean, it was a relatively new game, but nothing. And I thought, well, that's weird. So I pulled out my phone, and I'm like, well, let's just make sure this is working. And I went to Twitch, and I did every search I could think of, and it never even showed me my own, stream. And I thought, well, that's weird. And then I read an article somewhere saying that they, if you're not one of their top streamers, if they just don't show your stuff during prime time. If you could be there, showing stuff and you just won't get shown because they only have so much bandwidth. I get that. Now, because they're big now, much bigger than they were probably when I did that earlier in, later in 2015, maybe now they've taken that restriction away. But because of that, I've just never been super interested in Twitch. And since YouTube Live works, in my opinion, quite well, and I don't blame YouTube for I think that's my cable company, but YouTube, for its part, does really well with live streaming, so that's why I generally use it and don't use Twitch. So, yeah, and again, like I said, I don't really watch a lot of Twitch either, so there's that. There's a lot of stuff going here. That's cool. Diaz52 says, mine was the coveted 25th like. Well, that's cool. I appreciate that. Hi, Adam. The videos are online on YouTube in the Warhammer TV channel. Tuskar says, yes, they're over there. Well, that's good, because I would like to take a look at some of them just to see. Like, I'm not again, I'm not a tournament player, so I'm not going to be like, oh, that's a very smart tactic, because I wouldn't know a smart tactic if it hit me in the face. But I would probably like to look at it and see how they were filming it and like the technical stuff, just so I could maybe learn, so I could do my own bat reps and try to maybe not mimic, but look at it and go, oh, I see they're doing it above camera, or oh, that's, whatever. One thing I was thinking about recently is you're seeing more and more of those 360 cameras. Have any of you guys seen those 360 cameras where you can look at your cell phone and then like turn around and then you can see like 360, and it's almost a little bit like VR kind of. If I had one of those, I wonder if I could put it in the middle of a table during a bat rep, and then you could watch the game from like the middle of the table. Thing is, I don't think they focus close very well, but if I could find one that focused close and I put it in the middle of the table, then you could be like in the middle of the table during the bat rep, and that might be kind of fun. I don't know, but the ones that I've seen so far have been pretty expensive, and they don't tell you anything about how close the focal distance is, so that's not helping me out. And there's no place around here that sells them, so I can't like go and test one, but hopefully I'll find one eventually that is reasonably priced and has a close enough focal distance that might be kind of fun to play with. We'll see how it goes. Herman says, arrive late. It's 11:10 p.m. from Shanghai, China. Hello, Shanghai. Well, not having played it yet, I'm not too concerned about winning games, says Colin. I just like the idea of the green tide, although I suppose that mindset could change. They are cool. They're a lot of fun. And the modeling possibilities, especially if you get into 40K, are great, because the orcs have rules, from what I understand, for what they call looted vehicles, where you could take like a Space Marine Rhino and just glue a bunch of plastic card and extra stuff to it, and now it's been looted by the orcs, and now the orcs drive it, and so you can do a lot of cool stuff with that. I've seen looted Land Raiders, Rhinos. I've never seen any like looted like Dark Eldar, those goofy flying pirate boats that they cruise around in. I've never seen any of those to be looted like orc vehicles, but that might be kind of fun too. Have a bunch of pirate orcs hanging off the edge of those things. But anyway, yeah. So there's that. Let's see here. All right. It says here stream down. Is it stream down again, or is it back? Let me check. It says it's good right now, so hopefully we're good. And now I'm going to show you some models. It'll be great. So I'm going to go over here, and now you can see those models from above on my lovely piece of felt. And again, if you're interested, coupon code OzGileath, all in capital letters, at checkout. 15% off of your order at recage.net. Our lovely moderator, Matthew, he is half of the group that makes Recage. Hyacinth Games is the name of the company, and Recage is a post-apocalyptic skirmish/RPG, and these models are from their line. They have, at this point, roughly, they've produced about 120 different sculpts, 120 different models for the line, so there's a lot of different models out there for you to choose from, multiple factions, all kinds of cool stuff, and viewers of the show here are getting a bonus where you can use this code, OzGileath, at checkout, and you get 15% off your order at recage.net, and that offer is good for 2 weeks after today being the 25th of September, if you're watching this later on, and you'll be able to get your stuff from the store if you're into that, basically it'll help out the channel a little bit, because he'll be like, oh, look at all these people that bought stuff, that's awesome, and you'll get 15% off, so really nobody loses as far as I can tell. All right, so these are stakers. So the world, as I understand it, behind Wreckage, and someone just mentioned it here, and I totally forgot. I watched it yesterday. Douglas Hooker says, I saw the Beasts of War Wreckage interview. It was great. If you watched The Weekender from Beasts of War yesterday, which was Saturday here, yesterday, the Beasts of War, at the end, the last like 20 minutes of the Beasts of War is Anton and Matthew talking to Dawn, from the U.S. correspondent, Dawn, from Beasts of War, and they went to visit her because they live in the same state and it wasn't that long of a drive. They went to visit Dawn, and they did an interview and talked about Wreckage, so you can see Matt and Anton on that episode of The Weekender from yesterday. So you should check that out if you're into it. All right, there we go. Let's see here. There we go. All right, so these guys are stakers. Post-apocalyptic Wreckage. pretty much it's the climate change that affects the entire planet and causes the apocalypse in this situation. So things are very dried up and things like that. And it doesn't happen for another couple hundred years, so it's kind of in the future a bit when the apocalypse starts and everything. So now we are in a time of rebuilding, and there are different groups out there that are kind of rebuilding. These guys are known as stakers, in that they are setting their stakes into the land. They're homesteaders. They're like, this is our area now. We're retaking this land, and we're trying to work the land. So you have guys like this. This is a field hand. So you can see he's got himself a shovel, but his shovel also has a holster on it for a gun so that he can pull that out in case they get attacked by raiders. He has armor that is made out of old tires that he's cut up. You can see that kind of on his front there. Kind of a loincloth made out of old tires, a chest piece made out of old tires. He's got lots of scavenged pouches and things like that. He's got some goggles. He's got a really big knife, which is very pointy. On the back here, he's got kind of a little piece of cloth back there that I did, and he's got some more, scavenged stuff. He's got a bandana around his neck for sweat and everything. It's a great sculpt. I think there's a lot of personality to it, a lot of personality to the face. This lighting is not the greatest, but if you look at this image here, like that guy, I don't know, that just looks like an older guy who's telling people what to do, and he's like, hey, you go over there and do this and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's a good sculpt, and I really liked painting it. You'll notice there on the base there's an old brick, and that is from, if you guys have seen the video I did about how to make your own miniature bricks, that's one of those little miniature bricks. You'll notice the base. If you notice the base is all my favorite CA glue and baking soda, which I'm eventually going to make that video again. I tried making a video about CA glue and baking soda, and I screwed it all up, and I glued the base to my finger, and there was a lot of swearing. Maybe someday that video will come out, but we'll see. For right now, though, this is mostly CA glue, and then there is also some kitty litter, those rocks that he's standing there by, as he's trying to till the dead soil. Those are little pieces of kitty litter. And yeah, he was a lot of fun to paint. He's got bare arms, so I got to do some skin. And he's got a lot of washes going on and things like that. These guys got dull coated yesterday, so you can still see there's a little bit of shine, but dull coat does about the best of any kind of varnish, specifically spray-on varnish that I've come across. So that's our field hand. This is a mechanic. So she's a redhead. She's got, you can see her outfit there, that kind of her like bib overalls are all stitched together from probably different other pieces of cloth. I thought about trying to make them all different colors, and she's just stitched them all together, but I just thought it looked a little bit too easy. Not easy to paint. It would actually been more difficult to paint, but if you're going to have this stuff stitched together and you make it all patchwork looking, it just seems like over the top a little bit, so I didn't want to go that way. She's also got bright yellow gloves, because my thought is again, it's post-apocalyptic, so you've got a lot of scavengers, and the gloves to me looked like big yellow, like hazmat type, rubber gloves, so that's why I wanted to do that. Plus, it was a very interesting contrast between that and her like blue top, and then being a redhead, I gave her the pale skin, and then the blue top versus the red hair, it just kind of worked out as another contrast. Yeah, again, she's got some scavenged pouches. She's got some big black boots. You'll notice back here she's got a rifle. Looks like a bolt action, or not a bolt action, a lever action type, kind of almost Old West type of rifle. And you can see she's got big wrenches. She's got a big kind of like hammery kind of wrench thing there, and another big hammer in her other hand. Let me not try to drop this. So yeah, again, really interesting model. I really like it. I gave her a big kind of cinder block on the ground. That cinder block is from Death Ray Designs. I was like, it's Brush for Hire was the name of the company before, but now it's Death Ray Designs. They do a bunch of really cool post-apocalyptic shanty buildings. I did a video about MDF terrain a while back and showed off their stuff. And if you look in the background of today's title image, Those are the buildings back there. Those are made out of MDF from Death Ray Designs. I keep wanting to say Secret Weapon because Secret Weapon and Death Ray, they sound kind of the same. I mean, not really, but you could have a Secret Weapon that is a Death Ray. Anyway, that's just my brain. But yeah, so that's kind of just that's actually an MDF, little laser cut MDF cinder block brick thing that I put there and kind of painted red. Oops. And again, more of the baking soda and CA glue. I think there's a little bit of, I don't think I put any kitty litter on this one, so that's just kind of the grit and the stuff that shows up there. I wanted to go with a kind of a, not quite like a Mars red, but I didn't want it to be a real bone-colored sand. I wanted it to have a little bit more orangeness to it, and I think it turned out well. But it's still got the dry brush dustiness on top of it. It works out nicely, and I did some dry brushing on that brick to kind of give it that. So yeah, all that stuff worked out really pretty well on her, and she's a really cool model, and she's a mechanic. Now, these other two guys in the stakers, these two guys are both, they're known as Outriders, and they're basically kind of scouts / protectors. This one, this guy is cool. He's got like this sort of modified sort of maybe over and under shotgun, or maybe it's just another sort of lever action rifle, but you can notice it's attached to a scythe, so he could use that as a close combat weapon, or he could use it for actually doing, actual, working the soil or whatever, getting rid of weeds. Because like I said, like these guys are basically well-armed farmers. That's what stakers do. He's got, again, also a brick and some kitty litter to kind of make it look like rocks and rubble. He's got some binoculars. He's got some rope. He's taken off his hat. You can see he's holding that in his hand there. That's kind of cool. He's got goggles on, like a single monocle thing that it's on a, he can pull down over his eye. Let me get it there. Because I'm holding these guys upside down in relation to the light, which is why they look like they're lit from underneath and they look a little Halloweenish. That face on him looks a lot nicer here. Like he's like, the thing about these four models in specific, and I'm moving my mouse over these and you can't see that, but like the guy way over there on the left, he's just, like the face on that guy's really good, and the other Outrider I'm going to show you in a bit, his face looks really good too, and with like the leather cap and the goggles, I mean, if you took that guy's head and just put it like on a World War I fighter ace, it would be like perfect. So he looks like an older guy, and it's just, I don't know, they're great looking models in my opinion. I really like what they're doing there. It's unfortunate though the way I hold them here that they do look like they're lit a little bit underneath, and they're telling ghost stories. So that's why the shadows on these guys look a little weird. But I just wanted to show you some of those other shots. He's got some rope. You can tell that again, his jacket's been made from probably a lot of other jackets, but I again didn't want to go through and make a bunch of different colors on them. These guys I originally primed in black with my airbrush, and then I dusted them from above with white primer to give them that underpainted, white to black fade look. And then like this dirty old jacket is literally just washes over that black to white fade, and it works out really, really well. That's how I'm not doing a lot of wet blending and doing all that stuff. I'm just literally putting washes over black to white fade, and it works out really well. And it's a very quick process as well. His pants are mainly like black wash. A lot of other stuff like the hat and, his goggles or his binoculars and all that kind of stuff, and the gun, the metallics, all those things are actual paint. But a lot of this is just done with washes over that kind of underpainted fade, and they work out really, really well. And then lastly, we have our other Outrider. These guys are, like I said, kind of scouts. Everyone's out in the fields doing their thing. These guys are checking the horizon to look for raiders, and also going out looking for new supplies. He's got a big knife on his belt there, if we can get that to focus. So he's got a big knife with kind of a scabbard that he sort of made up. He's got big metal like knee pads, probably because he's older now and he has to kneel down to shoot sometimes, and he doesn't want to hurt himself on the rocky ground. Got pieces of just weird stuff on the base there. He's got his cool sort of like leather hood, and he's got goggles during, windstorms, dust storms, things like that. Leather gloves, again, leather jacket. Come on, focus. How about here? How about there? Oh, it almost does focus there. So yeah, again, this is the airbrush and me throwing washes over it for the coat specifically to kind of give it that fade. The rest of the stuff is generally painted. The gun barrel, the sight, the gun itself, the wood, all that is just painted. But yeah, again, the face on this guy is really cool. At this lighting, it makes him look a little spooky. But going back to that title image here, where you can see, I don't know, he's just a great looking model. And all of these guys, I really liked him. Part of the reason I picked these particular guys is because I liked the models so much, and I wanted to work with these particular guys. So my next force will probably be, I don't know, maybe Reclaimers. The Reclaimers, they go around and they look for old tech. I don't know why it's not focusing now. But they look for old tech, and they believe that it is their birthright to have all the old tech. So if they hear about like a group of, let's say, stakers who have some old tech, they will go and take it from them, and they'll do it however they need to do so. You know what I mean? So, yeah, these guys are cool models, and I really enjoyed painting them. And again, if you are interested, you could go to rec-age.net, and you could take a look at the model line there and the books and all that kind of stuff, and you can get yourself some cool models like these. And if you use the coupon code OzGiliath at checkout, all in caps, you will get 15% off of your order for the next 2 weeks from today, which is the 25th of September. And you could get yourself some Reclaimers, some Stakers, some Stitchers. There are like 8 different factions. I can't think of all of them. Drifters. The Drifters are basically they're all prisoners that were let go a couple hundred years ago when everything went to crap. And these are the kids and the product of all of these drifters, of these these prisoners. The Stakers are, like I said, homesteaders trying to make a new life. The Reclaimers are trying to find old tech, and the Stitchers are basically, some of them are as old as it was. Some of them are as old as the apocalypse is, because they are medical doctors, and they are using other people to like steal their organs and extend their own lives. So you've got a lot of really interesting stuff. There's a lot of interesting fluff. Anton and Matt do really great work with the writing and things like that, and the fluff in the books and the different add-ons and the like I said, there's a lot of things going on. There's the main book. There's Shangri-La that came out, but there's also been a lot of little scenarios and things like that, written things, some things that are just like, hey, here's a bunch of fluff you can read. It doesn't really, it's just stuff that you might use in scenarios and things like that. It's pretty cool. So anyway, those are the guys. Those are the things I've been showing off, and they're a lot of fun to paint, and I'm looking forward to painting the next group, and I've got more guys too. So Egan Harvey says, hey, Tabletop Moinions. I got a question. So I've been starting a new army, and I have been thinking of a new death army, but I don't know what's better, vampire counts or flesh eater courts. Which is it? Well, it depends on which you like better. If you're talking about which army plays better and will win you more tournaments, I don't know, because I'm not real good at that. I went with the vampire type counts, like the skeleton guys, because I like skeletons a lot more than I like ghouls or zombies. But you might like to paint ghouls and zombies more, so then you should go with them. As far as the actual tactics and which is better, I don't know if either is better, and I have no idea, so I'm not good at that. With most tabletop gaming, when people want to pick an army, I usually tell them pick the one you like the look of, because you're going to be looking at it for a long time potentially. So that's just kind of the way it works. That's my best opinion on that. Let's see here. Jeff Phillips asks, have you ever done commission work? No, I have not. I'm a slower painter. I'm getting faster as I do more of it, but I'm still kind of a slower painter, and I'm not really a commission painter. I still don't think I'm that good. I'm getting decent to the point where I'm okay tabletop-wise, but I talked before about how I'd like to eventually do a display piece, and I think that hopefully that won't be biting off more than I can chew, but it may. There's a definite difference between display quality, something you're going to put there and make a cool diorama, or you're going to try to win an award with. There's something different between that and making stuff that you're going to use and push around on the tabletop. So Yeah, I would not ever see myself doing commission work because honestly, then I would not have time to paint my own stuff, and Lord knows I have stuff to paint. So, yeah. Diaz52 says, Adam, the fluff lore or the minis, which sells you on a game, or is it pretty much an even split? That's a good question. I generally like the minis first. Like if a game put out a really cool story and had decent mechanics, but I hated all the miniatures, I wouldn't play it. So the miniatures are important. On the other hand, if you look at a game like Song of Blades and Heroes, which is a very, I don't want to say it's generic, but it doesn't really have a story behind it. It's just like, here's a fantasy skirmish game. You can use whatever models you want. You can use whatever story you want. There's like no fluff to that. And that's a lot of fun, and I enjoy doing that. I think that both, the fluff is what kind of pulls you in to keep you in a game longer, very frequently, I find. You know, models are great, and they're the thing you see and you go, ooh, what's this all about? And then if the fluff is really interesting, it can pull you in and make that like your game, the thing you play. If there's very little fluff or almost no fluff, then it's like, well, this is a fun thing that I play from time to time, but it's not like your, you know, that doesn't become like a big portion of your hobby. I know plenty of people who read the Black Library, you know, like 40K novels, and don't even play. They just love the fluff, and so they can get into it in that aspect. And Games Workshop, I think, is smart in doing that, giving the people, there are people out there who are enthusiasts but don't want to actually play and build and paint, but they really like the fluff, so okay, we'll sell them books. And there's other people who are like, I just want to paint and collect, I don't care about playing at all. Okay, we'll sell you models. You know, it's always good as a company to diversify that way and to be able to do that stuff. Douglas asks, Osgiliath, is it because you don't want Adam to get any discount on phone orders? Haha, very funny. So yes, it is an inside joke from a couple weeks back when, or a couple episodes back when I was just not able to pronounce Osgiliath when I was showing off my my swell terrain pieces that I was working on here. And yeah, so that's part of the joke. It's all in caps, so make sure you use that when you're putting in the coupon code, which is right here. Coupon code Osgiliath at checkout, 15% off your order at rec-age.net. All right. Hey Adam, did you swap out the axe with Krell? I'm not collecting death, but seeing that model inspired me to mimic your conversion. I did. Oh, how did I swap it out? That particular axe came from the Putrid Blight King's box. It's one of the axes that was in the box I didn't use. Putrid Blight King box is great because like there's 5 guys in there, but you can build them in so many different weird combinations that if you decided you wanted to build 15 of them, you could probably make every single one of them look completely different because there's so many different ways you can kind of build those models. That axe was in the box, and when I looked at Krell, like the black axe that he comes with was just, I didn't like the shape of it, plus it was fine cast, so it was all bent and weird anyway, so I thought, well, I can make this look better, so I just used that. I just used that axe from the Putrid Blight Kings, and it worked out really nicely. I did some research on the Ghouls army for death. They have a lot of bringing back their units without costing you summoning points as long as your heroes are alive. Yeah. The thing about death is that they reanimate a lot because they're, you know, basically animated corpses, so it's not that hard to get them going again, from what I understand. So yeah, that's one of the benefits to that army. It's kind of, you know, it's almost like Necrons where you can kind of bring them back, you know. Hey Adam, do you think that a Warpfire Dragon from Forge World will work as Malekith's dragon? I'm not familiar with either of those things, so I apologize for that. But as long as you and your friends are cool with it, probably so. If you were a big tournament player, they may have rules about that kind of stuff, so you'd have to check with them. But if as long as you and your friends are cool with it, you can use whatever the heck you want. Andy 2D6 over on his channel, he has made a cool. He made special rules even. He didn't even just like proxy. He actually made his own special rules for like this big metal colossus for his Stormcast army, because he found like this cool just thing, like, I don't know, like at a dollar store. I think they call them pound stores over there. But he found this toy, and it looks kind of like a big Harryhausen kind of, you know, Sinbad type, you know, like animated statue. And he painted it up, put it on a base, and he's used that. He's written up our rules for it and used it in his army. So, yeah. Let's see here. Amber says, "Oh my God, I made it! First live show. Big fan. Glad to see you live." Well, glad to see you here. We've got about another 25 minutes, but we've been talking about all kinds of different things. Marco asks, as an example, "How do you store your paint? I have the issue that my GW paints are drying out. I can at max 2 times get them to back to work using some water, but afterwards they are just unusable." I store them like in a tackle box, like for fishing, or they just have a tendency to litter my craft table as well. I don't really have neat like shelves or anything like that for them. I see a lot of people who do very organized stuff and have lots of cool shelves. If you look at Vince Ventruella's channel, usually when he's down in his paint room and he's talking and things like that in front of the camera, you can see all of his very well organized stuff in the background, his paints and washes and all that stuff. I don't generally go that direction. From what I understand, your best bet besides water, though, if you've got an acrylic paint that is starting to dry out, there are acrylic thinners you can buy like at your local hobby store, which will work better because they won't break the paint down as much. Like a water evidently will break the paint down more than just an acrylic thinner will, but you'll get better results in the long term. So maybe look into that, do a little bit of research online, and then find the right stuff. And then that'll help with if you've got paints that start to dry out. GW, those pots have a tendency to, the newer pots have a tendency to dry out a little bit more than the older ones do. Some people I've heard will throw a whole bunch of them in a Tupperware container because then you're like, well, it can't dry out as much then if you do it that way. Like if you're going to store stuff for a long time, like if you've decided, well, I'm probably not going to paint for the next year because we've just had a baby and just not going to have the time, then, maybe do something like that, put them in some other type of airtight container. But that's otherwise, those are my only good options, my only good tips in that situation there. Let's see here. Douglas Hooker says, "I just bought the new Osgiliath set. It's awesome for Frostgrave and much heavier than I thought. New magazine in UK is selling you the 40k novels real cheap." It's another reason that I also painted it up to be more stone color and less, actually like white like it was in Lord of the Rings, is because I wanted to use it for Frostgrave as well. So that's a good point. Matthew says, "I've never had much luck keeping Citadel paint pots fresh, so I just stopped using them or buying them with a few exceptions." I don't buy a ton of them, honestly, myself anymore. I have a tendency to go a little bit more towards Vallejo. I spend a little bit more time on Vallejo paints, but I still do buy the GW washes because I really like their washes a lot. I like other people's washes too, although secret weapon washes are really more glazes, as are army painter washes, in my opinion. But GW washes are still, for what I like to use them for, are about the best. So I do still buy those. But otherwise, I have been moving a little bit away from other GW normal paints. So yeah. Hello, Uncle Adam from Indonesia. Well, hello. Morning from Colorado. "Have you played Silver Tower yet?" I haven't. I have seen it. I have seen a demo even. I've watched maybe 5 minutes of a demo at a thing. Oh, what the heck was it? It was in Madison, Wisconsin. It was at a distributor conference that I went to back in March or April. It had just come out, and they had it, and they were doing a demo there. I haven't really played it. I'd like to maybe give it a try. I'm hoping that maybe at a convention soon I'll be able to do that. But no, I haven't picked it up. I've got a lot of other stuff to work on instead. So Roger says, "Your show prompts me to get up early on a Sunday." Well, I apologize. This is quite an accomplishment on your part, Adam, as I will never get up early on Sundays. Yeah, I don't. On the Sundays that I'm not here, I generally don't get up quite as early as I do on these Sundays, which my wife can attest to. So yeah, I'm glad to have you, though. I have to say, the batch from 5 years ago, I had to take a break for over a year refurbishing a house. Yeah, that's the trick. A lot of times life gets in the way, and sometimes the hobby falls behind, and then your paints can go bad if they're old, or if they're GW's newer pots and they're old. I talk to people all the time who have GW pots from like 20 years ago that are cool because those pots used to work out, be really like airtight. Amber says, "Sometimes I feel like my dead army disheartens my opponents a little too much. As someone trying to get my friends to play the game more, is there any playstyle for death that's less attrition-y?" Well, we were just talking about how death armies can keep coming back and have a tendency to keep getting back up again. I mean, you could just choose not to do that and just say, "Hey, let's learn how to do this," and then just not do that, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, if your death army is more If your Death Army is more skeleton based, I don't think they get up again as easily as more ghouls and zombies. So if you're, but if you're mostly ghouls and zombies and you're going to follow the rules to the letter, then they're going to keep getting up. You can always try to figure out something and try to tweak some rule just for learning purposes to get friends kind of hooked if you can, and that helps. So that's definitely a way to take a look at it. Let's see here. Matthew says he's a Reaper and secret weapon guy himself. I own some Reaper paints, but I don't own that many because I find Vallejos easier to find near me. It's not that I necessarily like them over Reaper. It's just that there's like shops nearby that sell Vallejo, so that's what I end up with. I would like to try out more P3 paints. Sam's a big fan of those, but there's nobody around here that sells P3 paints that I know of, so it's kind of a bummer. Let's see. GW gloss washes are great. I have not tried the gloss washes. I think it's partially because I almost never like gloss on my models. The only time I ever use gloss on models is on some Nurgle units, like after I've sprayed them with dull coat and gotten them nice and flat, I will go back with a gloss varnish and brush it on in certain spots to make like the gross like sores and wounds still look fresh and wet, and I'll do that. But otherwise, I generally stay away from gloss. So, but I think it's cool though that they are now making the option. I just hope that they don't make it that they don't make the regular ones anymore at some point. Like if they only make gloss washes, I think that's gonna be a problem. So I hope they keep still the regular washes too. Douglas says, I've got a paint pot MDF stand, and the offcuts make great bases for terrain projects. The sprue from MDF kits are cool for loads of terrain projects. Yeah, I've seen like the extra leftover stuff from MDF bits. You're like, I can use this for something. I've seen also, stands, paint pot stands made out of laser cut MDF, and those are kind of cool too. I know a lot of people also like to go on to like Amazon and get these clear acrylic stands that people use at like manicure pedicure places where they can stack up all the different fingernail polishes, and those work really well for our paint pot sizes too. So I've seen a lot of people who will buy those and then just repurpose them for paint instead of nail polish. A lot of people do that, and you find them, I think, just generally like on either eBay or Amazon, and you can kind of do that. Sir Swit says he's painting some Tzeentch bases for Silver Tower. I'm looking forward to playing with my group. I've heard it's a cool game. I've heard it's basically kind of like a dungeon crawl. Some of the models I think look really great too, but I don't know. I'm just not a big Tzeentch fan. Like I don't like I would not ever want to paint those guys kind of. So that's part of the reason that keeps me away from it. That's sort of the issue. David says, what do you think of playing with unpainted minis? In my GW store, it was forbidden some years ago, but now they allow it. I don't really like the look of unpainted plastic on the table. Great work, Adam. Well, thank you, David. Yeah, I'm not a super big fan of unpainted minis either. I understand that sometimes you want to try stuff out, or you just don't have the time, or you're just starting or whatever, and that's fine. But yeah, really, when you sit down and play with painted minis, it just looks so much better, and it just helps the game. It just brings together a lot of the overall feel of it, and really kind of does it the way that it sort of should be. I don't know. At least that's my opinion. So yeah, there's a lot of tournaments that just don't allow it, and I understand that. The War Machine tournaments used to not have that recommend. They didn't care if you were painted or not. So you would go to these War Machine tournaments and just see tons of black or just silver models. But now a lot of from what I understand, Privateer Press is putting more of an effort into making people actually paint their stuff at tournaments, and so you're starting to see more of that. Some of them are just skirting the it's got to be 3 colors painted, okay, and they just run a roller over it or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I think it's interesting to see how the difference between the competitive gamers who have no interest in the paint and then the hobby people like me who are more interested in doing it that way and don't care so much about the rest of it. So let's see. Just steal some of Sam's paints. Problem solved. When we get together to shoot, he brings just the ones he needs. He doesn't bring all of them, so it would take me forever to steal all those paints. It'd be rough. So yeah. Sanguina 555 says, how's your Death Army? Any progress? Well, let's see here. After I got done with those 12 skeletons, I started working on these guys, which I showed here before. Our friends over here, the wreckage stakers, and I got these guys just finished. And it doesn't want to focus. Oh, almost for a second there. Anyway, so I got these guys done, and I did just recently start working on building a Terrorgeist that I bought used off of eBay. He was in lots of rough parts, and some parts were in bags, and some parts were glued together already, weirdly, and so I had to do a bunch of work to get him fixed, and now he is on a round base like he should be, and I'm finishing up the texturing, and then I want to prime him soon. So that's, I guess, if there's any progress for my Death Army, it's a Terrorgeist, which will be hopefully soon hitting the painting table. Looking forward to that. Amber says, also I have a skeleton-focused army with vampire wizards. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess you can make them come. You can make skeletons pop up, after they get killed. Although, from what I understand, the zombies do it a little bit. There are rules more for zombies doing it a little bit more, from what I gather. But yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, if it's, I have not honestly yet at this point played my Death Army. I've been building and painting, but I'm looking forward to doing it hopefully soon. And then I'll let you know, I guess, maybe if there's a way to make it so they're not so powerful. If there's a way to make an army not very effective, I can assure you I will find the way to do it, because that seems to be how I play. Let's see here. Assembly Language says, I've got the Back to Basics, the rack system. I've seen that before. Back to Basics does some interesting stuff with laser cut MDF, and I've seen their rack system for paints. Those are cool. Let's see. Matthew says that he got his paint rack from Ironheart Artisans. Ironheart Artisans is cool. They do some neat stuff. My paintbrush rack I got from Ironheart Artisans. It kind of looks almost a little bit like an old, kind of like, those racks that you just put the samurai swords in? There's like the long one and the shorter one and the shorter one, and they're vertical. It looks like that, but for paintbrushes, but it's just small, and it's made out of laser cut MDF, and it sits on my table, and it's quite nice. I like it. So yeah, Ironheart Artisans does some neat laser cut stuff. Once my minis are stuck to the pill bottle for priming, they don't leave until they are painted. Yeah, see, that's the trick too. Is that, like, I prime them and then I stick them on the, so like you can't take them and paint and play with them. Be like, oh, I want to play a game today. These guys are only half painted. I'll bring them. It's fine. No, because they're stuck to pill bottles. So now at this point, they're stuck there until they're done painting, and then I take them off the pill bottles. So it's difficult to bring half-painted models to play, at least for me, because I don't, they're going to stay on those pill bottles, so I've got a nice big handle to hold on to my paint job until it's time to finally have them take them off because they're finished. So yeah, I see a lot of people at stores from time to time who bring half-painted models, but I've always never understood that, because I'm like, well, if you're already at that point, it's not that much longer until you're finished. So, but different strokes for different folks, as it were. New question. What's your opinion of people who order various pre-painted models from eBay and then leaving them as is? Are eclectic army colors frowned down upon? It depends, like if you're playing Space Marines, generally your people should all be roughly the same color. You know what I mean? If you're playing Space Marines and you're playing Ultramarines, they should all be blue. That's kind of the thing. If you're playing Dark Angels, they should all be kind of green. If you're playing Imperial Fists, they should all be kind of yellow. They don't have to be exactly the same, in my opinion. It's up to you. Everybody's different. But when I was painting when I used to do 40K and do Space Marines, I tried to keep my guys mostly painted the same. With Chaos, when I did Chaos Space Marines, you had like some guys with Chaos Space Marines, they all get together, at least in the fluff, they get together as a war band, and they all follow like one guy, and he's the new boss, and then they all follow him, and they could be all different, because you might have some Plague Marines, and you might have some, Khorne Berserkers, and you might have some Black Legion, like I did, and so those guys will all look a good deal different. They all look like each other, but the whole army together looks different because it's sort of a hodgepodge, and that's how Chaos works. But with the normal Space Marines, unless you're getting into, allies and things like that, everybody should sort of look the same. Now, if people want to buy stuff that they find online and then use it, I don't have a problem with that. That's fine. At least it's painted, But there's no rules against it, certainly, or anything like that. But yeah, it's fun. Let's see here. Thanks for the army advice, Adam. You're welcome. Jerry says, I'm very surprised there are not more Song of Blades and Heroes battle reports on YouTube. The activation reaction mechanic in this inexpensive game is awesome. Jerry, you are absolutely right. The Song of Blades and Heroes game is great. I did a video years ago about how I love to run it at gaming conventions as a great demo, and I will be doing it very soon. I'll be doing it on the 15th and 16th of, oh dear, I haven't moved that yet, have I? It's still in front of my face. I'll be doing it at the 15th and 16th at New Gameapalooza. You can find out more about New Gameapalooza at newgameapalooza.com, which you can see right here. And New Gameapalooza is a small little local convention in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. It's tabletop focused, but it's not necessarily wargaming focused, but it's kind of getting there. You know, there's more and more stuff that's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Matt's going to be there, our lovely moderator. And I'm going to be running some demos of this and probably some other things, and he's going to be running some Rec Age, and it's going to be a good time. So if you live anywhere nearby, you should go check out their website and make the trip. It's on the UW of Oshkosh, University of Wisconsin Oshkosh campus, and it is in like a conference center that's also got dormitories upstairs. So if you're coming from a longer distance, you can stay in the dormitories upstairs for like $40 a night or something like that. So it's really pretty inexpensive if you wanted to just stay, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And but yeah, if you live nearby or whatever, you should also come stop by, say hi, maybe play some Song of Blades and Heroes. And again, that's newgameapalooza.com. See, fancy. Anyway, so yeah, Song of Blades and Heroes is a great, relatively simple game. You can play with whatever models you want. Fantasy skirmish, but it's got a very interesting activation mechanic that works great, and it's a lot of fun. And I can teach people who've never played War Machines at all or War Games at all. I can teach them to play it usually very quickly, and it works out great. So, and Matthew has put a link to Ganesha Games, which is the people who make it, and you can check that stuff out. Let's see here. That's going to become a t-shirt or something, I swear to God. Assembly Language says, I use prescription bottles too. I use double-sided carpet tape to affix it to the lid. Doesn't leave the greasy residue like blue tack. See, I never have a greasy residue issue, but then again, I don't use blue tack. I use like whitish poster putty from Hobby Lobby or something like that. Different brands of hobby or of poster putty, I think, have different mixtures or whatever. So yeah, but I don't usually find a greasy residue. Sometimes, like my most recent batch of poster putty actually is a little stickier than I'm used to. So I'm now finding some of these models. I don't know if any of these guys are going to have it. Yeah. If you look here, some of these models, like that's a little extra poster putty that I just could not get out of there. And you can see some extra little chunks. I've never generally had that problem before, but this batch of poster putty that I've been using is a little bit more, let's just say, tenacious. This one doesn't have any, but he does have a weird piece of cork stuck to his. I don't know, I gotta fix that, because if you look, you can see how it sort of sticks out, and I think that's why he doesn't sit completely flat, so he needs a little bit of work. But yeah, poster putty, normal white poster putty, I don't usually find a residue, but from what I understand, blue tack has got a little bit of different, something like that. Let's see. Sounds like eclectic death armies are lore and store friendly then. Oh yeah, totally. I mean, anything, that's the thing that's neat about Age of Sigmar is that, I mean, really, according to the rules, you can play with as many different, like if you wanted to mix Stormcast and Skeletons and some Nurgle dudes, that could be your army. There's nothing that says you can't. You will get benefits, specifically if you play in points. If you play in the points version, matched play as I like to call it, if you play matched play and everybody in your army is from the same of one of the four grand alliances, Order, Death, Destruction, and Chaos, if all of your guys are from, say, Chaos, well, then you will get special benefits. But there's nothing to say that you can't play with, like my Chaos army is like Warriors of Chaos dudes, some Varangard, some Blight Kings, Rotbringer Sorcerer, so some Nurgle stuff. Then I move into some Skaven stuff. I've got Skaven guys in there. Some of them are Nurgle Skaven, which is Clan Pestilens, I believe. And some of them are just regular Skaven. And then I've also got Goat People. They're all technically Chaos. They all have the Chaos keyword, but you can mix them, match them, and put them all together however you want. And it's a lot of fun. So that's having a death army with like some zombies and some skeletons and some tomb kings and all that stuff. They're all death, so it's cool. You can totally do that. Grant says he wishes he was in the U.S. because he would totally come. I'm assuming he's talking about to New Gamepalooza. Yeah, it's a fun little convention. It's maybe, I mean, in comparison to, Adepticon or it's nothing like Gen Con. It's maybe 250 people. It's a small little convention, but it's fun. It's like a bunch of people getting together for like a big gaming party, But still, there's also some vendors and things like that, so it's cool. Day Sausage. Me and my brother are brand new and just got to the point that we can play, but we seem to have disagreements over some vague rules. What can make learning easier? Well, I'm assuming maybe you're talking about Age of Sigmar. If you're talking about Age of Sigmar, there are some frequently asked questions. There's some fact sheets you can download for free from their website that might clear up some of those. Other ones are just get together and just the two of you just decide this is the way this rule is going to work now. Just house rule, make it up yourselves and then write it down or something so there's no discussion down the road. Well, I thought we were doing it this way. No, I'm pretty sure we were doing it that way. Make it known and then just go that direction. Honestly, any game, it's not just Age of Sigmar. Any game you play, you can do it the way you want to, especially if you're just playing at home with your brother or any other friends or whatever. If you start getting into tournaments, then you generally have to play, at the very least, the way the rules say. Sometimes you have to play even specifically the way the tournament organizers say. 40K specifically, there's a lot of tournament organizers out there who are like, this is the way that we play the game because the rules are so crazy these days, and so they have very special sub-rules that you have to follow. And so, that's cool. But if you're just playing with friends, as long as everybody agrees it's playing, then that's how you play it. It's easy to do. Do you know anything about the game Black Powder? Is it any good? I don't know a ton about it. I know it's a historical game. I want to say it takes place French-Indian War? Somewhere around there, maybe. I'm not 100% sure on that part, though. But I do know it's historical. It might be from Osprey Games. I'm not 100% sure who makes it. But I don't really know much about it. I know that it's popular. When I did the video about historical gaming, a lot of people mentioned it in the comments. So I think it's one of the more popular, specifically from that time period, games out there for that. So, yeah. Paul says, have you played Dark Age? That has an interesting activation mechanic, too. I've played it. I have a small core army for Dark Age, which I painted, and I don't remember the activation being that interesting. But then again, it's been a while, and my memory is terrible. But yes, I have played Dark Age. I kind of didn't really like the mechanics much, sadly, because I liked the models, the core models, like they're like the robot guys. I liked them a lot. They were really cool. They're very interesting sculpts, and they were fun to paint. But then I kind of played the game with a guy who really knows the game because he's like, I think he's a world champion, because they do the big world championship it's either at Adepticon or at Gen Con, I forget which, and he won, I think, the previous year, so he was very good at that game, and we played, and I just was just like, a lot of stuff just didn't make sense to me. It's just one of those things where sometimes the rule set just is like, I don't know why, but it rubs me the wrong way or whatever, so I didn't really get into it. But yeah, so I have played that. Black Powder is a really old rule set, but a lot of people still seem to love it. Assembly Language says, I'm loving Age of Sigmar. I'm working on my Slaves to Darkness right now. Yep, I've got 12? No, 10. 10 or 12. 10 or 12, 10, I think. Warriors of Chaos built and painted and all done. And now I need to do some more because I'd like to have a bigger unit. I'd love to be able to take 20 of them, potentially. Or 2 units of 10, I guess. But 20 would be kind of nice, too. So I've got to kind of get those guys finished up, and they're on the list for a lot of other things as well. Let's see here. Schmock Vlog. If you're into beer and pretzels games, I think he's talking about Dark Age. Yes. Arnold says, doesn't somebody ask him about Dark Age nearly every single show? I think I remember him saying, I have an army, I didn't like the rules. I've said it before, it's true. And I do like the models, but I haven't played for quite some time. It's been maybe it's been a year, but I don't think it's been quite a year. Peter Pan says, I still have my Age of Sigmar starter box to paint. I was thinking of painting the Stormcasts like holy rust buckets, lots of dark metallic and brown patches. That could be cool. Initially, I thought the Stormcasts were always going to have to be very clean and like polished, but then sometimes you see in the artwork that Games Workshop puts out, like if you go to the Age of Sigmar, like for a while, the Age of Sigmar Facebook page, like the cover image across the top was like a close-up of a Stormcast guy, like his face. And first of all, you could see eyes inside that mask, which kind of answered the question about whether they were hollow on the inside or not. But also, like, he had obviously been, or she, had been in battle quite a bit and was beat up and kind of rusted, and there was a lot of scratches and things like that. So because I do generally like to paint like that, I have a suspicion that my Stormcast will look a little battle-hardened. But yeah, I mean, completely making them rusty, I don't know about that, but that could be a cool look, though. It would be kind of interesting. Sir Swit says, I'm the same way with War Machine, but I'm trying it again soon, so maybe my mind will be changed. I know that they made the new version, version Mark III, and it's supposed to be a bit streamlined. It's interesting. I've thought about it. I don't really know a ton of people around here who play it, so it's unlikely that I'm going to be getting into it. But yeah, I know a lot of people are kind of getting back into it who hadn't been playing for a while, so that's cool. All right, well, it's a little bit after 11 my time, and we've been doing this for about 2 hours. I want to, again, thank everybody who's come to view and to talk and to chat. I definitely, again, want to thank Matt, our moderator. He's always super helpful to make sure that weird stuff doesn't happen in the chat, and also he helps us out and puts in links and things like that when one of us or I'm talking about something, and he's able to find that stuff. It's super helpful. If you'd like to help Matt out and also get yourself a cool game, then you might want to take a look at going to recage.net. That's rec-age.net. It's right over here. And you can get yourself a 15% off your entire order by using the keyword Osgiliath, aka the ruins of Osgiliath. You can get 15% off your order from Wreckage for the next 2 weeks, starting today, which is the 25th of September 2016, if you're watching this is recorded. And you can get great models like these guys. You can get all kinds of post-apocalyptic stuff. You can get the rules. You can get add-ons like Shangri-La. These are not focusing now. But they're great models, especially when I get my finger out of the way. And you should definitely take a look and go check it out and show them a bit of love. And it kind of helps us out too, because I can say, hey, look, this many people went and did that thing, and then he can track it because there's a coupon code and everything. So give it a try, take a look. There's also some free stuff to download if you're interested there too, and have a great time. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. And that's pretty much it for the show. See you in 2 weeks.